Welcome to Velocity, the Vista Chamber podcast. I'm your host, Vista Chamber CEO Rachel Beld, and it's my privilege to interview the movers, shakers, and change makers impacting our Vista community and beyond. And today I'm excited to welcome Paige McWey Acers. Paige is the executive director of the San Diego Brewers Guild. And founded in 1997, the Guild is a nonprofit organization that seeks to promote San Diego breweries and create an open line of communication among brewers, creating a strong and vibrant community. The Guild's mission is to promote awareness and increase the visibility of fresh, locally brewed beer through education and participation in community events. While the San Diego Brewers Guild represents the brewing industry countywide, Paige's office is located here in Vista, and I have the pleasure of getting to know her as a colleague since we both lead business membership organizations. Paige is a lifelong Vistan. She went to Vista High and attended San Diego State for college, and she's been the executive director for the Brewers Guild since 2013.
2013.
Yeah. She's also the mom to two kiddos, and she's also my neighbor. So welcome, Paige. I'm really glad to have you here.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, thank you. So I have to tell you a story about when we met in the parking lot. Or when we saw each other in the parking lot. So the Vista Chamber, we moved into the Film Hub in September of 2020. And it was in the fall of that year of 2020 that I was thinking about our relationship, the Vista Chamber's relationship with breweries, and just how we had kind of a ebb and flow in our participation and partnership with local breweries. Mm-hmm. And I was just really thinking about, gosh, they're really having a hard time right now with 2020. And I would just really wish there was a way that I could better connect with them. And I remember just thinking, and I had made notes on things I could try to do to re-engage with the brewers. And then I was walking out of the Film Hub office, and you start walking into the Film Hub office. And I was like, wait a minute, I know her. And I really was putting it out in the universe. Like, I want to connect with brewers. And then also just separately thinking about, like, I need friends, like I need colleagues and like people on my team, people to like vent to and colleagues. And so I just really feel like it was like the universe just connecting us in that parking lot that day when you said, I'm moving into the Film Hub, moving our office here. And I was like,
Babe.
Yay. I was so happy. So I'm really glad that you moved into the Film Hub and that we've gotten to know each other over this last 18 months or so. Mm-hmm. So I'm really curious, how did you get connected to the Brewers Guild in the first place?
So I always thought that I wanted to go into law. And so my brother had graduated from law school with a lot of debt in about 2009. Okay. And that's when I had graduated from college, and I was trying to figure out what I was going to do. Yeah. Wasn't super into going into that much debt. So I said, well, let me try this paralegal program. Okay. So I went to the paralegal program through University of San Diego and started working in a law firm, talked to the attorneys that were there to see how they enjoyed law. What I learned was that a lot of them went into law because they wanted to advocate about something or a particular topic that they were very passionate about. But a lot of those jobs don't come up. And so they're like, unless you can definitely get that, or you don't want to work for a lot of money, just think about what you want to do. Right. And so I started doing that. And a huge thing for me is community. And so I looked at organizations and businesses and things like that had a big impact on the local community. And being born and raised in Vista, I saw the evolution of the downtown area when Mother Earth went down there, and then seeing just how vibrant that became. And it was so clear to me that craft beer was a big mover, right, to my local community, but then also across the entire county. So I started looking at jobs in craft beer, and I had been introduced to the Guild through a farm-to-table restaurant that I worked at in San Diego. And so when I saw that the Guild was hiring, I'm like, well, I'm familiar with it. It's community-driven. I get to work with every brewery, get to work with multiple communities and cities, and went for it. And that was 9 years ago.
Wow. 9 years ago. Time flies.
Well, almost 9.
Almost 9. Okay. 8+.
Yeah.
So what's the best part of the work that you do? What's your favorite thing?
I love that I get to work with all the breweries because they all collaborate together, but they all have different business models. They all have different types of people that are attracted to them, whether they're workers or they're guests or they're consumers. And so there's just a lot of stories behind each of the breweries and the passion. And so it's really great to be able to learn what those are and then work with them. Where when working for a singular business, you don't get to always hear those other stories or get to know all those different types of people. And so I think that's definitely my favorite part of my work at the Guild, is like getting to know everybody.
That's great. I love that collaborative feeling too. So what do you think's the hardest part of it? On the flip
That's
side?
also the hardest.
Yeah.
Because, it is definitely a challenge. You can meet all of those people, but actually having like really strong relationships can be challenging because you're not on the inside. Even though you know them and you know their story and you have relationships, you're still not within their business organization.
Sure.
And so you definitely feel a connection, but sometimes it can be challenging, like not really being a part of one type of business, if that makes sense.
Sure. I mean, I guess I can see too, like with the chamber as a membership organization, we might be familiar with a business and have a pretty good understanding of the challenges that face them. But oftentimes business owners are so focused on running their business, they don't have the capacity to communicate the details of what's happening.
Yes.
And so you're trying to guess like, oh, I want to help you and I see you're really busy or that you need help or you need support. And you're, they're so busy they can't necessarily give you the specifics of it. So
yes.
So I can totally relate to that.
I think another example of that is like over the last couple years, all of the challenges with the closures and the different restrictions and things like that. And people are like, well, how is the brewing industry doing? And it's kind of like, well, I need to talk to those business owners. I don't, because I'm not in that business in particular. It's like I don't know that yet. Like I have to go in and do like my own research versus if I was in a certain business, an employee of a business, and I would probably have a lot more deeper understanding of those specific challenges as a employee versus someone who works with so many of those different businesses.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. So why do you think it's important for industries like breweries to have a guild, to have a very specific organization representing them?
Well, for our industry, because it's a highly regulated industry, it's important for our members or for our breweries to really understand what those regulations are, what those changes are, what could be changing, if there's other stakeholders that are trying to change something that could really impact our industry negatively or positively. Like it's really important that the businesses and the breweries know as manufacturers what's happening and what can impact their business. And so having an entity that's looking out for them in that way, whether it's through education or if it's actually through advocacy work in meeting with legislators or local elected officials or things like that. Like it's hard for the breweries, like you said, the business owners are so in their day to day that sometimes it's hard for them to think about what sort of assembly bill is on the desk of the governor or whatever, or local ordinances or things like that. So we really try to keep our finger on the pulse so that our members know what's happening or what could be happening and if they need to be involved at a different level.
Got it. Okay. So what are some of the, obviously we'll talk about COVID in a minute, but what are some of the biggest issues you think facing the brewing industry right now?
Employment is a huge issue. Right now, definitely the staffing, trying to keep people on staff.
Yeah.
Some breweries are experiencing issues with like hiring mid-level experienced workers.
Okay.
And I was actually speaking with a business owner last night about that. And, I said, why do you think it's so challenging to find that? And I think these people have moved out of California.
Yeah.
So it's going to be, I think it's really important, like workforce development is really important in trying to find skilled workers for those types of positions.
Sure. And it's positions that are directly connected to brewing, or are they more hospitality? Are they like finance and management, marketing? What kinds of industry? what kinds of
it
jobs
seems
do you
to be
think?
more in like the sales, marketing, distribution and there needs to be an understanding around how to sell alcoholic beverages.
Sure.
So you can't just throw somebody who has sales experience in there because there's a lot of laws that surround the industry. It seems like the manufacturing aspect, those skilled workers are there. It seems to be more of like the mid-level C-level type of employees that, may have left California or left the region or left the industry for other opportunities. And so it's been challenging to find find people for those positions.
Yeah, it's a tough one. And so what do you see the Guild's role in working on a challenge like that?
So we're focusing on education this year and trying to, make sure that the members are able to, with their recruitment, like how to recruit, like we have a job board. We're trying to create tools for them that we haven't had in the past. And then we're also, pretty focused on DEI, so trying to reach into new markets or new segments or, different types of people who may not see the brewing industry as something approachable because they don't brew beer. It is a manufacturing industry. That's what we're categorized as, but there's a lot more opportunity than I think some people realize. So trying to reach out to communities and to workforce and saying like, the beer industry isn't just about making beer. It's about, there's events, there's community involvement, there's sales, there's accounting, there's all sorts of aspects that people may overlook the opportunity to work at a brewery because they are like, I don't drink beer, or I don't understand beer, or I'm not into craft beer or something.
Right. Wow. Okay. Cool. So let's see. Are there any other trends or issues that you see affecting breweries or affecting the Guild in the next year or so?
I think supply chain is going to be a big issue. With aluminum, a lot of the breweries have gone into cans, obviously, through packaging over the last couple years, and there's a shortage. And so we're trying to look into group purchasing options for the members and the breweries and see if there's ways that we can help them through some of those supply chain issues that they're experiencing.
So just so shifting focus a little bit to just like kind of the structure of your organization. So you're a nonprofit.
Yes.
And you're a staff of
one,
just a Paige. Okay. So you get a lot done being a staff of one. So you have a board.
We have a board.
And the board is represented from the different brewery members.
Yes.
Okay. So what, how do you get so much done? I mean, I look at your website, your events calendar, you have a lot happening. How do you do all that as one person?
I don't know. I mean, I try to take it day by day. In the last 2 years, we've really had to get creative in what we do because so much before of what we did was consumer driven, driving public awareness and increasing visibility of breweries and craft beer in the county. And it was really challenging to meet that goal and that mission over the last couple of years because people weren't going out and the breweries needed something different. They're like, we don't need you to promote us. You need to help us stay in business. And so, we really tried to, the board is made up of all volunteers and they give a lot too, like trying to get creative with me over the last couple of years and they're not, they have the responsibility to make the organization successful, to make sure that it continues to be successful in its mission. And so part of my job is making sure that the board of directors are participating, which can be really challenging.
They're all running their own businesses at the same time. Right. I have the same challenge with my board as well, where if you're running your own business and there's challenges there, it's very, very difficult to carve out time to focus on something that's a volunteer. Yeah.
But I feel like I've been really fortunate in that the people who have wanted to be on our board, it's fairly small. It's about 10 people total.
Sure.
And so the people who want to be on it are the ones that it's set from the very beginning of like, you have to do this many hours.
Right.
This seems, you know.
There's expectations.
Very, very clear from the get-go. And it's a lot. I try to keep them accountable. And it's kind of like, if you can't do this, like, that's totally fine. But just let me know.
Right.
Because the person who has to pick up work is me. And that can be really challenging for me.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely. So speaking of COVID, talking about COVID over the last couple of years, I know every business, every organization, every person has had their life impacted in some way, either in a health capacity, financially, regulations, in some way. So what are some of the things that you think that you're the most proud of that the Guild has accomplished as a, you know, using the P word, pivot, as a pivot through COVID? What are some things that you did that the Guild did that you're really proud of?
I would say two things that I'm really proud of over the last couple of years is one, prior to COVID, we didn't have a strong relationship with some of our elected officials. We kind of deferred that type of work to our state association and would work with them and have them come down to San Diego locally. And obviously, you know, over the last 2 years, they've been pretty swamped up in Sacramento and just didn't have those local connections. And so we started focusing on that and just kind of being like, we want to make sure that when you are thinking about how to support and save small businesses, you're thinking about the breweries in the correct way. You know, they aren't just small businesses, or they're not just hospitality. There's a lot of confusion around breweries because they see them as tap rooms and equate them to like the hospitality industry, but they're much more than that because they're actually manufacturers. You know, they have canning lines and they have giant, you know, they have equipment and they have these types of expenses where they're making a product and selling it, not just selling it. So trying to make sure that, you know, local officials understood the business model and how our businesses were being impacted was really important to us, and getting constituent meetings planned, which we hadn't really done in the past. And the members were like so appreciative of that because they felt like their voices were being heard. So I was really proud of that. And then another thing that we did was we went to some virtual like beer pairing dinners. So we still tried to engage the craft beer fan and the consumer in a unique and, you know, safe way, which ended up being really successful and like pretty fun. Yeah. Like people kind of doing these beer dinners at home when they could and having a unique experience when it really felt, you know, kind of uninspiring.
Right. Well, I think, you know, I participated in one of those and I think it was super fun because you're home and I got sick of cooking, and it was fun to try food I had never tried and pair it with a beer and have someone walk me through how it should go together and why these flavors go together and why these things, you know, educate behind it. That was a really fun experience. So I think thumbs up to that. And I'm sure the breweries, you know, enjoyed continuing to get their name out there and continuing to just spread awareness around the products that they create and serve. So.
Yeah, and it was fun creating a new event thing, you know, event concept that we would have never thought of doing otherwise. Yeah. You know, there was never a need for that, but people really, really liked it.
Yeah. It's amazing the creativity that comes from, you know, confinement essentially. Yeah. So, you know, just to get a little personal for a bit, you know, you and I have talked a lot about running an organization, a membership organization, being a mom, having kids at home during a global pandemic. And so it's a big challenge. It's a big challenge. So I just wanted to ask you about what you think about the role of being a mom and being a working mom, not just, you know, running a chamber, running a membership organization, but why do you think that was so hard? I mean, why it was really hard, and I know we've talked about that. So why do you think it is? Why do you think it's been so hard to navigate, to keep all those plates in the air?
I think the hardest part was setting boundaries because they became non-existent.
Totally.
You know, for a while, we were at home, everybody all in the same house under the same roof.
Right.
And you know, for me, I have a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old, so they definitely don't understand the concept of like when mom is working and when mom is home and available when mom is physically at home. Right. So there were times where I was in meetings and there was yelling on the other side of the door because they just don't understand that. And I feel like and they weren't ever going to really understand and grasp it the way that I would have needed them to.
Sure.
And that would have been unrealistic for me to have that expectation of them in the first place.
Sure.
And so it was really trying to figure out how to have a boundary and have balance when there wasn't any sort of separation in my day.
Yeah. I can totally relate to that. And my kids are a little older. They're 7 and 12, but I still struggled with the boundary, especially the working from home part. And just, the door is closed, but mom's on the other side, and why can't she just make me a snack,
Yeah.
And so, or I need something. I don't know how many times I said, your father is literally 6 inches away from you. Can you please ask him? But yeah, so, I mean, it's been really hard as a mom and as I think all parents, but and then navigating school, I know your oldest is in kindergarten or in school now.
Yeah.
And navigating schools open, schools closed, school this, that, it's kind of that whiplash effect. And it seems, here we are in 2022.
Yeah.
I thought we would be done with this mess by now.
I know. And
it's awful. So
and with my 5-year-old is trying to educate him about what's going on is really difficult. The COVID is a germ is how I, kind of explain it. But also because my children are so young, I haven't had that challenge of going back to normal because this
is normal.
This is normal.
Yeah.
They don't think it's an odd thing to be wearing a mask. My 2-year-old asks to wear a mask every day because his brother does. And it has a superhero on it. And so he's super excited about it.
Yeah.
So he doesn't really I haven't had those challenges as a parent of when is life going to go back to normal?
Yeah.
Because they don't know any different. So I feel like I'm fortunate in that. I mean, there's other challenges, obviously, with the little ones, but that expectation from them doesn't exist for me.
Yeah. My kids have stopped asking. They used to say, when COVID is over, can we do blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And now they don't say that anymore. And one day I realized, nobody's asked me if we can do XYZ when COVID's over. So that kind of made me sad a little bit to think about they've just, in a way it was like, okay, they've accepted it. So that's a good thing. But on the other hand, it was like, they've just stopped asking. They've
accepted it.
Yeah, they've accepted it. So it's kind of like, it's a bummer.
They're like, I need to.
Yeah.
Too.
Exactly. So I think we're all just figuring out how to navigate this whole, I hate the word new normal, but it really is. This is what life is now, and we're figuring it out. So that's just really interesting. And I know, your office is here at the Film Hub, and the Chamber's office is here at the Film Hub. I've been so incredibly grateful to have a colleague and someone that I can say, okay, new regulations just came out. How are you handling this? How are you communicating this to your members? And let's collaborate on it, or, attend meetings together and get involved with electeds together.
Absolutely.
So that's been really, on the work side, that's been good. And then also I'm glad to have you as a neighbor. I can walk by your house and wave and be like, I'm going crazy. And you say, so am I. So that's been really nice. I really appreciate you. So let's see if I missed any other questions. So as we're just coming to the close of our conversation, I always have rapid fire questions I ask every one of my guests. Okay. And I'm curious if you could give me, I love to read, and so I'm always looking for book recommendations. So what is a book that you would recommend that I read, or that anybody listening would read?
Well, I'm currently reading a book called Northern Spy.
Okay.
I recently found Reese Witherspoon's book club list, so it's on that.
Okay.
And it's based in Ireland, about when the Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland and the infighting and all of that.
Oh, so, fascinating.
Yeah, it's supposed to be pretty fast-paced, so it's picked up pretty quickly.
Okay,
and
so you're
it's kind of like
right
a
now.
Page turner. Yeah, where you're trying to figure out a little bit of a mystery kind of going on, and so I like it.
Sounds intriguing.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. All right. Tell me a song you always have to turn up. You always have to jam out when it comes on. It's like, I'm dancing, I'm jamming.
I love Shut Up and Dance With Me.
Okay.
I'm not going to sing it.
Okay. But it's a little bit newer song, within the last 5 years.
Yeah, probably in the last 5 years. I remember jamming out at my wedding, and I don't know, just one of those. You're just like, shut up and dance. Yeah, it's just makes you want to do that.
There's
and
lots
I do
of
it.
times where I just all right, dance party. That's it. We just have to shut up and dance. I love it. Okay, so tell me something that inspires you.
Inspires me. I am extremely inspired by our community. Mm-hmm. I've been thinking about that a lot lately, and just where I live, where my kids are growing up, and I continue to want to have them in our community and in the community that I was raised in. Mm-hmm. And so I'm inspired by the people who live here and, the diversity that we have. Mm-hmm. And it makes me happy that we have something like that here in Vista. Awesome.
Okay. Last question. A Vista business that you think deserves a shout out, and why?
So I think a business that I have found recently that I spend a lot of time at is Moonry Collective in downtown Vista. I really like what they've been able to create there with, the uniqueness of their shop. Mm-hmm. And every time I go in there, it's completely new things, new fun things to look at, and women-owned. It's really nice to have something so dependable right in downtown Vista that I like to support.
Great. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we wrap up, is there anything else you want to share about the Guild, or anything else are you looking for volunteers? What's your next big event? Just any other little snippet about the Guild that you want to shout out?
I think it's just important to continue to support the local craft beer industry, that they are more than small businesses. They're these manufacturers that are working really hard to create a product that they're passionate about, and they want to share that with their community. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's the glue that holds the craft beer community together. Mm-hmm. Is that unique passion of that entrepreneurship of sharing sharing something that they love to make and they love to share. Mm-hmm. And so that's really what the Guild wants to continue for the San Diego region, is to make sure that type of passion and that type of entrepreneurship doesn't disappear. I think it's very important and unique to our region that we have such a strong and vibrant industry that cares so much about its communities.
Great. Thank you, Paige, for being here. So
glad
to have you here. And I hope you'll come back at some point, and we'll talk more about beer and life and Vista.
I like it.
Yeah. Awesome.
Thank you so much, Rachel.
All right. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Thank you for tuning into Velocity, the Vista Chamber podcast, where we hear from the movers, shakers, and changemakers impacting Vista, California. To hear the latest from Velocity, please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. The Vista Chamber of Commerce is a nonprofit organization which serves as catalyst to business growth. Visit us online at vistachamber.org.